This is a beautiful guitar. I'm thinking of selling it because I'm just thinning out the herd a bit, and there's a couple guitars I may be interested in. I really love it. I may not get rid of it. But let's get into it. For those of you who've not played one or held one and are thinking about it, first off, let me say that this is an ESP George Lynch Kamikaze. There is the lower end version, but it's not bad, ESP LTD. LTD is a very, very well made guitar. I've had a handful of LTD ESP guitars and they're great. To start off with, it is heavy. It's around 11 pounds. It is noticeably heavier than your average guitar. You know how some guitars are a little heavier, a little lighter than others, like an Ibanez versus a Jackson Dinky or a Jackson Soloist. This is the heaviest guitar I have ever owned, and I've owned a lot. I don't know if I'd play a gig with this because it is so heavy. The fretboard is ebony, and I like it because it's a darker ebony. Nowadays, ebony fretboards, they're not as dark, and a lot of them look like rosewood, which I don't like. But I really like the ebony boards because they have a snappier sound, a tighter sound. I like the slickness of the wood. It feels glassier. That's what I like. The grain is very tight in the ebony fretboards, plus I like the look. The frets, they are stainless steel. Stainless steel guitars are more expensive because they're harder, much harder to work with than nickel frets. Most guitars have nickel frets, which if you put a lot of hours of playing time into it, you're going to have to get it refretted after a while. Although I've got some guitars I've had for about 20 years and I have not had them refretted. Just clean them, go over them lightly with an SOS pad once in a while. So nickel frets, it's a softer metal than stainless steel. Obviously, since it's a smoother metal, some people will argue it's easier to bend on stainless steel. I agree with that. The nickel frets, especially over time, they get a little tarnished looking and feeling, I would say. You'll notice it, but again, it'll save you money if you get a guitar with nickel frets. But in this price range, stainless steel is the way to go. They're also going to last a lot longer. It's got, of course, the mother of pearl inlay. How are you doing? You like this? The fretboard, one thing you'll notice right away is that it is noticeably wider. Like your Ibanez Prestige necks, they're a little wider and very flat, which I really love. They are 43 millimeters wide at the nut. That's what I prefer. That's what I like. Other guitars are like 41.5, 41.7. That extra millimeter and a half is very noticeable. This guitar, I believe, is 45.2 or something like that. So it's 2 millimeters wider than an Ibanez Prestige. And you notice it right away. When you hold it, you notice the width of the neck, which I really like. So the spacing between the strings is a little wider as well. So either that's going to throw you off or it won't. For me, it's natural. It feels like kind of like a classical guitar, if you will. I mean, that's maybe stretching it, but you know what I mean. It's wider. I want to say like an Ibanez Gem, but I like this better because it's a little flatter. The Ibanez Gem necks are a little more round. This is a little flatter. I don't know if you can see it. What a lot of videos don't show you is the neck width. So it's not as thin as an Ibanez Prestige, which when I hold a Prestige, it's like, okay, I feel like I'm right at home, like I'm getting into the seat of a sports car. You know, it's just the Prestige necks from Ibanez. The Ibanez Prestige necks are really almost too thin. A lot of people say I don't like it. It kind of cramps my hand. For me, it's so much better. Holding this neck right out of the gate, it is different. It feels a little thicker, but it's not thick. It's a little thinner than an Ibanez Gem, okay? So the width of the neck may throw you off. You may not like that. The neck thickness, it's definitely not a baseball bat neck. It's thin, but it's not thin. I'd say it's between like an Ibanez Gem and an Ibanez Prestige. all right, something like that. Of course, you got the killer paint job. It's really great. It is paint. It is not decals. Bolt-on neck. This one's made well. You can get to the higher registers, no problem. You can feel the block on the palm of your hand. It's not a big deal for me. Seymour Duncan Mr. Scary pickup. The original ESP George Lynch Kamikaze had the Screamin' Demon, which is great. It's got a really great growl. I mean, just listen to any George Lynch album. Docking, right? This one has a little more bite, and it sounds wider. I'm not going to play through this today. I'm going to just take it to a local store and see how much they'll give me for this. I'm tempted. Now that I'm holding it, it's like, no way, I don't want to get rid of it. But anyway, so, and then I can't remember what pickup we have up here, but it sounds really good. It's got a nice rasp for blues, or it's got that raspy single coil pickup. And one of my favorite things, no tone control at all, just a volume, and you select the two different pickups by pulling up on the volume. So now pulled up, you've got the single coil engaged. Pushed down is the humbucker. It's got an original Floyd Rose tremolo, all the high-end specs. Ebony fretboard, very well made. This is a tank. It feels like a tank, and it's a workhorse. This is an awesome guitar. It doesn't go out of tune no matter what you play or whatnot. It stays in tune. It's solid. It looks great. It plays great. It's got the ESP on the headstock, which I love, and a little George Lynch signature. Not the original signature, but just part of the logo. And I believe that one thing I don't like about the LTD series is I don't like how it says LTD on the headstock. You're buying an ESP, I'd rather it say ESP, but if I'm going to buy an ESP, I want it to say ESP on the headstock. That's another reason I don't like the LTD series, even though they're built incredibly well. And then the E2 series, for some reason I can't stand where it says ESP at the 12th fret. I don't like that. I just don't like it. I want all dots or all block inlays or all skull inlays or whatever you're going to have. I don't want to have dots mixed in with an ESP logo at the 12th. But when you hold this neck, it feels solid, well built. It feels like polished art. Plays really well. The string spacing, the fret spacing, it just feels good to me. It feels natural. Some guitars, when you play them, you feel like, oh, the fingers feel kind of like crammed, pinched together. I felt that way when I had a few PV Adrian Vandenbergs back in the day. I loved those pickups, the Alnicos. I didn't like the fret spacing. The frets were too close together. I didn't like the Kaler trem on that Vandenberg. The neck felt a little too narrow to me. Other than that, I really liked it. Wound up getting rid of all of the Vandies, but this... It's got such sound just by... Do a little harmonic. I am tempted to bring it to the store just to see what price they'll give me. You know why? It's because I'm eyeing one of the Jackson Soloist SL2 new guitars that just came out in Lambo Orange. I love the Jacksons. I already have a Jackson original dinky reverse, but I want to try. I found a store that has the Lambo Orange. I want to try it out. If I fall in love with it, it's going to have to be a deep love to get rid of this to get it. Now, with that Jackson Lambo Orange SL2, it has active pickups, an EMG 81, which I do like those, and an EMG 85 humbucker in the neck. It's got stainless steel frets, ebony fretboard. It's got a neck through, but I don't mind the bolt-on. The only thing that scares me, and I've never done this, is if you crack your neck, you can just unscrew and replace it with a neck. With the neck through guitars, you're going to have to get it repaired or just maybe bite the bullet and get another guitar. Another thing I don't like about the signature guitars like this by artists, you know, be it your Steve Vai Gems or your George Lynch Kamikazes or whatnot, is you bring this out and instantly everybody knows, guitar players, that you like George Lynch and you probably play like him. And you're instantly pinned as a Lynch boy or a Vai boy or whatever. You know, whatever. I mean, if that's important to you, not to me. That's why I got it. I love the look of it. I am a Lynch fan and a Dokken fan. I'm an 80s kid. And it's a great guitar. The biggest takeaway from this is, besides being made incredibly well, it has all the high-end specs. It feels solid. It doesn't feel like a toy. It feels like, you could tell by picking this up that it's expensive. I'll put it to you that way. When you've held other necks of other guitars, you can tell, oh yeah. Like the neck even feels solid. It's a lot of fun. The pickup is growly, it's punchy, it's pretty good for metal. Not as good as your Seymour Duncan. Is it TH5, SH? No, I'm sorry. SH4, TH4, SH4, SH4, TB4. What would I choose between this and the Prestige? I would take the Prestige, only because I like this neck, but I love that Prestige neck.